First, let's head over to the Firebase console and open Firestore database. It's inside the build index. Let me go to the rules section and set up some basic but really important security rules. I am going to replace this line with allow read, allow write, colon. If request.auth.uid, which stands for unique ID, doesn't equal null, so this will make sure that the users that are logged in can read or write data within the database. Let's publish the rules now. Now, let's get back to Android Studio, where we are gonna create a variable and write ref.watch, and inside the brackets, let's call the view model provider. Next, we are going to create another variable, this time to store the device with. Inside it, we want to call media query of context dot size dot width. Here, we're gonna start with the main purpose of the budget app, that is tracking our finances. And we are going to calculate all the data in the front end, that is in the Flutter app itself. Firstly, let me create a variable called total expense and initialize it with 0. And I also need to create another variable called total income and initialize it with 0 as well. Let's go to the view model file and create a list called expenses name. All the names of our expenses will be downloaded from Firestore and stored in here. We can initialize it with an empty list, that is the square brackets. Let's create other lists now, that is expenses amount, which will store the amount of money for each expense. And it's time to create the income's name and initialize it with an empty list as well. Of course, as you can guess, it will store the names of the incomes, and when it comes to the income's amount, it will store the amount of each income. Once we are done, we can get back to the expense view mobile and create a function called calculate. Here we are gonna run a loop from 0 till the number of the expense amount. So let's write view model provider dot expenses amount dot length to obviously get its length, and then type I++. We wanna go through all the expenses and add them to the total expense. So that's why we're writing total expense equals total expense plus, and notice that here we also need to make sure that all the data we receive from the Firestore is converted to an integer. So to do that, first we have to write int.parse and within brackets write viewModelProvider.expenses_amount and give it the list index, which is I. I will give the index from 0 to the length of the list.